So here's the deal. On the first day that I was assisting the timekeeping team, my job was to hand the sensors, the starting time sensors, to the starter who fires the gun. And on the very first race that I hand him the sensors, he fires the gun and it's a false start. Well, the wheelchair 100 participants start going down the track, but they get about 20 yards and I'm looking up and I'm noticing that the clock hasn't started on the board, even though the timers up in the crow's nest said that they got a clean start. So we had to restart the race. And the reason for that restart was because one of the two sensors that I handed the starter wasn't turned on. I didn't know that when the sensors were handed to me that one of them was off. So that was the first lesson learned. And then everything else seemed to go pretty well until about maybe 2/3 through the meet. The communication system that goes around the track, there's a whole network of cables that kind of go around down through here. You can't see it, it's all underneath this this track, but it goes all the way around. And at every junction box or every corner of the track, there's a place for me to plug in my cable and communicate with the people in the crow's nest, who tells me that they've got the computer set and they're ready for the race to begin. And at that point, I'm supposed to hand the sensors to the timer. He fires the gun. Well, there was a couple of times, because there's another guy training, just kind of takes some time to get used to and learn. And during this training time, the I guess things weren't moving quite as fast as the starters were used to, so they're kind of like looking at me and saying, "Can we go yet?" And three people in a red jacket. They're all really nice, but you know, I'm kind of waiting with the sensors and holding it back and not letting them start until they give me the go-ahead. So that was interesting, but what was really interesting and kind of made it pretty stressful was that in these junction boxes here, somewhere in here, these are the cables here that I'm plugging into, and of course they're all wound up right now, but what I was supposed to do was plug in when I got to the start line. Well, one of these times I plugged in and everything kind of shorted out and the communications went down. And actually, I think it was before the start of the steeplechase, and then where it really went bad was at the start of the 1500. And I could, at least at the start of the steeplechase, I could hear them, but at the start of the 1500, when I walked down and plugged it in there, and that was the big race that Andrew Weeding was supposed to run, and it just didn't work. And so I had no communication, and the timer had to come down, and I'm sure he was probably thinking, well, I made some idiot move and it wasn't working properly, but as it turns out, they couldn't figure it out and there was nothing to troubleshoot. So basically I just said, if you can give me some kind of signal that when I look at the scoreboard clock and that thing is reset to 0, I'm just going to know that I can hand it to them. And that kind of worked enough, or well enough. But what was just awkward was that you know, there was even that problem at all. So when I went back up to the crow's nest and was talking to these timers afterwards, they said, you know, that just has never happened. And I kind of believe it, but you know, certainly to have that happen on your first meet, and these guys have been doing this for 20 years, and this is my first real day where I was participating, it did feel pretty bad. And also the timers, I think that they were just kind of wondering, what am I doing down here? But they were really nice, and at the start of the 5,000 I was actually able to hand the timer to Bill McChesney Sr. and before the race, while the women were running on the 5K, we were able to talk about his son, and he shared a memory of when his son ran for Oregon and he ran like a 3:57 mile, and at that same meet Bill McChesney Sr. set the world record at that time for his age group of like 4:50, or it was a sub 5 mile, and so they both had these tremendous times, and they took a victory lap, and he was sharing that moment and I was listening, and I thought that was pretty cool. So you know, that was kind of a silver lining to the meet, but it's really late and I'm tired, and it's past 9. Time is it? Yeah, it's 9 o'clock right now, and I've been here since like 11:30, and then we're supposed to be back here tomorrow morning at 8. So this has been a really long day, and it's been interesting to be a part of it, but also a little bit stressful because it's the first time doing it. I didn't really know what to expect, and to have all of these things kind of go not as to planned, that was a little challenge. But tomorrow's a new day, and I guess they need me, so I will be here and I'll give another report.